Darlene, which is my glass?
No,
I'm sorry to break up dinner like this. Okay, baby, okay. What's that smoke I see, darling?
I'm not gonna worry about it.
Send him some.
I tried to look.
Hello, everyone. I'm back again, but this is going to be very brief. We are very fortunate to have our two honorees here this evening, and thank you for joining us for a very special question and answer period with Scott Simon. Allow me to start by just introducing our board member, our honoree, a tireless advocate and supporter of Birch Family Services, and of myself in this role that I share, Jean Rowley.
Thank you so much, Matt. This has been a great night for Birch and a great night for me. Not only are Ron and I honored with the Legacy Award, but I get to talk to Scott Simon live. Scott doesn't know this, but I spend most of my Saturday mornings with him. He is my calming.
Okay, of course I know it. I'm just amazed you would say it. I mean, my wife is right here.
Well, I didn't say it was live and in person, but you've always been kind of that voice on my Saturday mornings that helps keep me calm despite what the news is saying. And when I read the review of your new book, Sunnyside Plaza, which I have here, and then when I read the book, not just the review, I knew it had a perfect resonance for Birch and for this very special evening. So it's a complete thrill to me to host this Q&A with you. And I want to thank you so much again for joining us.
My pleasure. We're honored.
Can I interrupt? Would you like me to put more lights on, Scott? Is the lighting all right? Because we actually have a light if you want me to do that. Is it okay? Or do you want?
I see him fine.
Looks good. Okay.
Or he
All
might,
right.
they might prefer to not be able to see me, darling.
Okay, then I'll just sit back here and listen.
Anyway, we've invited our Birch friends and families to ask you questions. And I have some of them here, but I also wanted to encourage anyone who's watching to send in a question on using your chat, which is somewhere on your screen, and enter the question in the chat tool. And if we can, we'll try to get to it. But I want to start with one from a fellow board member and wonderful person, Dan Brescher, who says, group home staff work very closely with the people they serve, often involved in the most intimate areas of their lives.
Yeah.
Is that true when you worked in a group home? And did you feel specially connected to the people you supported?
Yes, I mean, particularly because I was a case aide, so this involved, yes, the most intimate details of life, particularly as they got ready for bed, and men and women. And yes, I think it increases your sense of closeness. I think it increases your sense of responsibility, your involvement in other lives and your recognition of that. I think it brings down barriers. And it also teaches you the importance of dignity in all human relationships, that there is a way of doing that while also maintaining dignity. And I'm just not sure I would have had any other occasion or circumstance to learn that at that particular point. But I think it is something that you carry through the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm. And I think that comes through in the book, certainly, that genuineness. We have a question we'd like to send our World of Technology to Thalia and Robert in Orlando, Florida. So I think they're coming in here.
Hey, Scott.
My word, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm fine, thank you. First of all, congratulations on your award.
Thank
That's
you.
so amazing. We know that you've been with NPR for, I guess, a little over 40 years. In that time, we're curious, what do you think the biggest and or most important story is that you've covered?
Well, without thinking it through too much, the siege of Sarajevo, which for me was in the early 90s, and was a story that I came to care very deeply about personally. I was of that generation of reporters that felt if you just told people what was going on, damn it, the American people and the people around the world would be rallied to do the right thing. And I'm afraid it was a very painful, conspicuously public lesson that is not necessarily the case. I don't think I need to detail tonight just the monstrous human crimes against humanity that were committed in Bosnia during the time I was there, pretty much in full view of the world. And it changed my view of what could be accomplished by my profession. It changed my view of human intelligence. I was struck by the fact, as people in Sarajevo would say, some of the best minds in the West, most sophisticated places like New York and London and Paris, would use their extraordinary intelligence to explain and reconcile not doing anything. Mm-hmm. In other words, oh yes, what's going on in Sarajevo is terrible, but look what's happening in Somalia. Or look, what's going on in Sarajevo is terrible, but more people die in the United States of traffic accidents today. I mean, come on, what are we supposed to do? And they would use information and intelligence to make themselves feel reconciled to doing nothing. And, what a lesson. Yeah. So I grew to admire the spirit and the pluck and the humor of people in Sarajevo, which was a very peaceful place, and never thought that they would be plummeted into the just the dumb, numbing suffering and mindlessness of that kind of war, and yet they were. And when they realized that the world was turning away, they very bravely and very nobly did what they could to survive and to protect themselves, and yet also preserve their sense of humanity and civility. As one of my favorite stories ever was about, because we began to notice in the middle of sniper fire and artillery fire, and we say this, some of you might have heard our dog barking. You cannot explain to a dog oh, I'm sorry, there's a war going on. I can't walk you now. There's a war going on. Dogs don't understand that. And yet people, their pets were important to them, their dogs and their cats. And we came under sniper fire as people were walking their dogs because that relationship was important to them. And as I tell people when I, sometimes speak before groups now, 5 times at least, the people of Central Bosnia and the Bosnian government refused to accept an agreement that would ethnically divide their country because they felt that was not civilization, that was not humanity, that is not what we should be doing at this point in our history. And they certainly did that at the cost of their lives. But they felt that on the other side there would be a society with preserving. And to this day, I am stupefied in my admiration for them.
Oh,
Wow.
It's a tough, hard lesson, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I would never have guessed you would have said that. And it's very, very eye-opening for us and important we don't forget.
A lot of people, I think, guess I would say the 2016 Cubs World Series. That would be second.
Thank you, Thalia and Robert. We have a question from Justin Bachman, back to how Birch helps people with developmental disabilities engage with their community beyond the group home to help them lead fulfilling lives. And this is certainly very much a theme in Sunnyside Plaza. Was that something that was clear to you when you were working in a group home, or did it come in hindsight?
I think there were hints of it when I was there. Most of it came in hindsight, I must say. And, I think when you have a community like the one that I worked in, very close, very self-referential, let's put it that way. And yet there's this portal, obviously, to the rest of the world. In those days, the television screen that was on 24 hours a day, now it would be screens like this. And you became aware of the fact that, not that I would know this clinically, but a kind of depression would set in, I think, among some people who would understand that the world they were seeing was one in many ways that was locked off from their own experience. And that's rough, that's rough.
Yeah.
And I think insofar as we can knit those two experiences together and make people we love and cherish part of the larger world and be part of their lives and they part of our lives, I think that's something that's an important contribution that will elevate and uplift all of us if we can manage that. And that's something that I came to care deeply about and feel very strongly about.
Yeah, it's certainly something that you brought out, I think, in Salamiakki and how they deal with the outside world. Yeah. I'd like to take another question from Anna from Golden Solutions, one of our corporate sponsors and corporate partners. I think she's coming in from somewhere in the
Hi, I'm live from New York. Hi, Scott. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm a huge fan as well. So my question, you mentioned that you wrote Sunnyside Plaza with input from your 2 daughters. And I was just curious, what was that process like? How did their input impact the book? And do you have any plans to maybe collaborate with them in the future or write another book?
Our 17-year-old is just sitting across from me here at the table, as a matter of fact. You basically wrote everything, right, baby? Yeah, right. And I just put my name on the cover. Yeah, that's what we did. I provided an early draft to our now 17-year-old and her best buddy, Adelaide, and I waited for a reaction, and finally I got it, and a couple of very good suggestions, including not to make the book too long, which I think is very important. You know, our daughters are both very good-hearted people, and I think everything in that book is something that I wanted to share with them. It's one of the reasons I wrote it for the particular audience I did. As to another collaboration, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves or anything, but it's funny, I've just been going back and forth with my agent in tonight about a book that we've done. I mean, I don't talk about this in front of every group, but there was a zebra who lived for a while on our balcony, named Stripey, and you know, and because of the tines on our balcony going up and down, Stripey just kind of blended in, so not everybody saw him. But in any event, so there might be a Stripey book ahead of us. As a matter of fact, where is Stripey?
Oh, on the table somewhere.
Oh, could you bring me Stripey, Dorothy? Yeah, thank you. So there might be, you know, might be something. This is not life-size Stripey, if you understand. You know, this is not life-size Stripey. But my favorite part of that book and the draft we have so far is that in the foreword I say this book is based on actual experience. You know, and we learned a lot from Stripey, who is, you know, back in the Serengeti now. But you know, there was a neighbor, you know, big cities, who lived across the way, who was convinced that she could see a zebra on our balcony, and apparently that's against like building rules. So Stripey would just hold his breath like that as they came to, you know, in any event, you know. So maybe something about Stripey, we'll see.
Well, great. We can't wait to read it.
Who we met on the subway, I should explain. We met on the subway. And next time you're on the subway, and I invite you to take a look, okay? Who knows, right?
You never know who you'll meet on the subway.
That's the wonderful thing about the New York subway, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably more of an answer than you had even anticipated.
Yes, sorry about that.
Yeah. We have another question from, there's
Stripey, I'll take care of this.
Another question from the Ethersphere, from Lauren and Todd Weaver, way out in Colorado Springs. Come in, Lauren and Todd Weaver. I think they're coming in. Well,
Hello.
Hi.
there they are.
How do you do?
Good. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
So Scott, our real question to you is, we own a business and we're busy all the time. I'm sure you're overwhelmed and busy professionally. We are curious how you juggle your personal life with your work life and your kids and everything on a day-to-day basis. I can't imagine writing a book was easy, and doing the weekend or every weekend or however you record that, I guess.
Oh, we work on it all throughout the week. I'm very fortunate to have really, I think the most wonderful family in the world, as far as that goes. I get up extra early to write and work on my books. It's really as simple as that. Other than that, I have no.
Well, and you work all the time.
Yeah, my wife is contributing from the other end of our vast living room here. Wait, in fact, she wants to be a part of this conversation.
Yeah, let me hear what she has to say.
Yeah. No, it is. Oh, and Daisy wants to contribute. It
And
is
Daisy.
true. Scott is amazing.
Daisy, Richard, Simone.
He
all right.
wakes up really early.
Yeah.
Like at 5 every morning, and that's when he writes. But he works all the time, and it has been very nice during this stay-at-home
Yeah.
COVID time that, you know, this is the most family time we've had in a long time. And even though he's working on the program and working on writing, we're all sheltered at home together. But you're only that productive if you're working all the time.
I mean, However, working from home, and I realize this is going to sound insufferable, but the other morning at 9:45,
Yeah.
I was interviewing Sam Smith, the great British singer.
Mm.
And our 17-year-old was sliding the doors upstairs to my home office. And I said, I'm interviewing Sam Smith. And for the first time, really, she came back, knocked on the door and said, my friends would like to know if they could see Sam Smith. So in any event,
It was very
she
cute.
brought in the Zoom screen from, her art class, baby? Yeah, art class. And everybody got to say hello to Sam Smith, and Sam Smith got to say hello to them.
We listened to your interview actually today during art class.
Oh, you
Did you really?
Mhm.
They listened to my interview later. Was that the first time anybody in your art class was aware of anything I do for a living?
No, I just told them at the beginning of the year or something like that.
Pardon me, what?
I'd already showed them your office.
You want to come say hi?
Oh, okay, yeah,
You have
say
to come
hello.
behind us.
They see Daisy.
They
Daisy,
can't really
Daisy.
see Daisy. Daisy's a part of the broadcast.
Hi.
This is our 17-year-old, Elise, Sylvie, GMA, Simon.
If I can add one
yeah.
thing on this subject of working a lot, when the pandemic started, when Scott came home, everyone came
Yeah.
home, we thought about how difficult this was and would be, especially for people who didn't have a busy life or family or kids or
Yeah.
pets. Us before we were married with children, I think it would have been very difficult for either of us, and to be separated from family and so forth. So we started a little family project called Open Book, and Elise does it with Scott every night. And every night since March 17th, for about half an hour, Scott interviews an author. And so we've been doing this from home. And on the one hand, yes, it is, sometimes Elise gripes a little because every night she has to be there to do the technology and to set it up. But it's been this marvelous source of interest and energy every day. It's just been wonderful. Sort of a family project
Yeah, and she's our
on
director.
Periscope.
We call her a little Spielberg, although not as tall as Steven Spielberg now. So, no, it's actually been.
It's been wonderful.
It's been wonderful. Yeah, I must say. I mean,
And to have that
No,
sense of
yeah.
purpose, that sense
Yeah.
of meaningful connection with people. Many of the people who have been tuning in have been tuning in since the first day, and they come every night, and there's a sense of virtual community, which is wonderful. And most of the authors, many of them, they don't get to go on book tour. So they're having a little virtual book tour through Open Book. It's
Yeah.
nice.
That's really cool.
Well, thank you so much. That's amazing to hear. And you have a wonderful family. It's really heartwarming.
Oh,
I
Thank
do
you.
have a wonderful. Our 13-year-old won't show her face. She's busy.
she's very shy, actually.
She's working on an essay at the moment.
Yes, she's
yeah.
very, so Elise is applying to college and Paulina is applying to high school. So this is a busy time in the Simon household.
Yes, we have one downstairs doing SAT prep right now.
Good luck with that. It's so hard because
Oh.
they keep getting canceled.
Oh,
We've
yeah,
been through
I
this
know.
since the
Boy,
spring.
did we
It's
ever, yeah.
maddening. They work so
Thank you so
hard
much.
and then
Yeah.
it gets canceled.
But she did pretty well. Sorry. Sorry, baby. I just had to say that, okay?
Well,
Thank you
good
so
luck to
much.
your
We
family.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have time, if you will, take one more question.
Of course.
Yeah.
From Robin Keller, the chairman of our board. She asks, can you imagine working as a direct support professional in a group home today during a pandemic like we are experiencing now? And
Wow.
have you thought about how the younger Scott Simon might have handled it?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. Well, the younger Scott Simon was a jerk. So
No, but you were probably oblivious.
I was oblivious. I
Yeah.
think it's safe to say.
Well, like a lot of young people, you don't
Yeah.
measure the world the same way when you're young.
Yeah. I mean, I have thought about this because I cannot imagine the combination of dedication and selflessness and purpose that it takes now of all times. And I'm in utter admiration of people who do that when, of course, the work is more important than ever. And, when people feel more vulnerable than ever. And I think that's why it's more important than ever to do the small amount that we can to support them. you know, in their efforts, because you know, those are all of our lives that are in those homes. This is our human family. This is who we are. This is who we share our passage on this earth with. And the kindness and sense of purpose that we can share with each other and can bring out at the moments when it is most needed is the kind of light that's going to shine through our lives right now.
Wow. I thank you so much. I know you've been really generous with your time here tonight. We really appreciate it. And it was, again, a thrill for me. And I know clearly from the questions and the involvement, it was a thrill for everybody. So thank you so much for joining us, to your whole family, including the dog. And
Our pleasure. Our pleasure.
Daisy had some things she'd like to add. They're poodles, you know? I mean,
they never stop. Never stop.
Exactly. Oh my God. Actually, she's a New York poodle.
All the better.
Yeah. She's from Chelsea, right? Yeah, she's from Chelsea.
Very classy.
You saw she's dressed all in black, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very New York.
New York sophisticator hipsterdom. Yeah, exactly. And she, you know, I'll never forget. She said to me, "You're from Chicago? That is the Midwest." You know.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
you
Scott's
very much.
beautiful
Well,
award.
thank you. And I want to thank everybody who listened. This was a tremendous evening for Birch. Thank you to everybody, to all of our wonderful supporters, to Scott and his whole family, and to all of you. We could not do what we do without you all. So thank you and good night, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Good night.
Good night.